कुलिल्लाहुम्मा मालिकिल मुल्क तु'तिल मुल्क मन तशाअ व तंज़िउल मुल्क मिम्मन तशाअ व तुइज़्ज़ु मन तशाअ व तुज़िल्लु मन तशाअ बियदिकल खैर इन्नका अला कुल्लि शैइन कदीर तुलिजुल लैला फिन्नहारी व तुलिजुन नहारा फिल्लैल व तुखरिजुल हय्या मिनल मय्यिति व तुखरिजुल मय्यिता मिनल हय्य व तर्ज़ुकु मन तशाअ बिगैरि हिसाब सदक़ल्लाहुल अज़ीम. Wie kein Lied mit den Verklingung, lead thou me on. The night is dark and I am far from home. Lead thou me on. Keep thou my feet. I do not ask to see the distant scene. One step enough for me. एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पूरख निर्भव निर्वैर अकाल मूरत अजूनी सैभम गुरु प्रसाद जप आद सच जुगाद सच है भी सच नानक होसी भी सच. वाहे गुरु जी का खालसा, वाहे गुरु जी की फतेह. नमो अरिहंताणं नमो सिद्धाणं नमो आयर्याणं नमो वज्रायाणं नमो लोय सव्यसाहूणम् एसो पंचणमुक्कारो सव्यपावैपणाशनो मंगलाणं च सवैसिं पढमं हवै मंगलम्. हमायरश्च खरेनश्च हमाय तनवो द्रवतातें हमाय तनवो वज्दावरे हमाय तनवो वैरेत्रें हमाय स्तें पौरुष खात्रम हमाय अश्नाम चित्फर्जातें हमाय दर्ग्याम दायदो जेतें हमाय वहिष्तें आहो मशोनाम रौचें विस्फो खत्रें अथ जमयात यथा प्रणामी अशेम वोहु वहिप्तेमस्ति उष्टास्ति उष्टा हमाय ह्यत अशाय वहिष्टायशे. बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि. ओ Om.
Thank you for evoking the blessings of God and for giving this program a reverent start. A very good afternoon to our distinguished dignitaries, guests, teachers, and my fellow mates. For today's esteemed event, we have with us our chief guest, Professor Shyam Menon, former Vice Chancellor, Ambedkar University, Delhi. For further proceedings of the event, I would like to invite Dr. Gitika Datta, Principal, BLMCE, for introducing our chief guest.
Thank you so much, Akriti. I hope I am audible to all. Okay.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure for me to be introducing our chief guest of this day, who happens to be one of the most illustrious names in the field of education. We are very pleased and honored to have Professor Shyam Menon, who is a professor at Central Institute of Education, University of Delhi. He has been there since 1994. He is the founding Vice Chancellor of Ambedkar University, Delhi during 2008 to 2018, in which capacity he led a team of scholars and professionals in building from its very inception this public university dedicated to social sciences and humanities. He has been Dean, Faculty of Education and Proctor of the University of Delhi, and earlier Director, School of Education, IGNOU, and professor in Central Institute of Educational Technology, NCERT. He began his teaching career in 1982 in the MS University of Baroda, where he taught for several years. His education was at the University of Kerala and at the MS University of Baroda. He was later at the University of Wisconsin-Madison as a Fulbright postdoctoral fellow. Sir has also been a visiting fellow at the Department of Curriculum and Instruction, University of Wisconsin, visiting faculty at the University of New England, Australia. And thereafter, sir, he is such an illustrious person there. He has, if I read his complete CV, which I got from the internet, I can go on and on, but I'll just try to focus on the most distinguished aspects of his career. He has been the winner of many fellowships and honors. He has been Fulbright postdoctoral fellowship in 1992. He has also won the Commonwealth of Learning Study Fellowship in 1991, University Grants Commission Research Fellowship, UGC scholarship under the CAS scheme, Professor T.K.N. Menon Gold Medal in 1978, Professor S.N. Mukherjee Gold Medal in 1978. Sir has also been the editor of one of the most reputed journals in the field of education, national as well as international. He has been on the International Advisory Board of Comparative Education, Taylor and Francis, International Advisory Board on Teaching Education by Routledge, International Advisory Board, Asia Pacific Journal of Education, again by Routledge, Advisory Board in Contemporary Education Dialogue. Sir has also been giving consultations, and he one of the most prominent ones are he has been the UNESCO consultant and resource person in the sub-regional workshop on human rights education in the Gulf states and school systems in Doha, Qatar. He has also been consultant with the American Institutes for Research at Selection Committee, member for REACH India project under Leader Cooperative Agreement with USAID, and consultant to the Government of Netherlands on the third joint review mission of the PEP in April 2001. Sir's research interests include, and he has worked tremendously in the fields of curriculum study, teacher education, and higher education. He has been on the boards of and academic councils of several universities and institutions. Sir, we are deeply honored to have you here as the chief guest on this auspicious occasion of 5th Foundation Day of our college. And we heartily welcome you, and we look forward to your enlightened perspectives on the theme of today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for introducing our honorable chief guest.
Before we move ahead, let us enlighten you about Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, an internationally reputed institution dedicated to the promotion of education and culture, is a charitable public trust founded by Kulpati Dr. Kanhaiya Lal Manik Lal Munshi on November 7, 1938. It is today an all Indian intellectual, cultural, educational institution dedicated to the twin task of interpreting the age old and vital message of our country by sticking to our cultural roots along with encouraging its students to reach sky high achievements by panning our wings and opening up to new advancements every day. Anu Bhadraha Kartavo Yantu Vishwataha, as Bhavan's motto, taken from Rigved, rightly highlights the importance of let noble thoughts come to us from every side.
Now, without further ado, I would like to request Shri Ashok Pradhan, Director, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan and Chairman, College Management Committee, to please deliver the welcome address.
Professor Shyam Menon ji, Geetika ji, Mishra ji, and all others who have joined us on the 5th Foundation Day of the BLMC. You are all welcome to this webinar. I'm extremely lucky to welcome Professor Shyam Menon, who is a great educationist. He has done a lot for taking forward the education in different aspects, as clarified or as brought out by the presentation of Srimati Geetika Datta ji. And I'm sure all of us have a lot of regard and respect for him for providing service to the education of this country. And also we are grateful to him for joining us today on an important day of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. That is the 5th Foundation Day of BLMC. Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Delhi Kendra set up the BLMC in 2016 and requested the IP University to start the BLMC, the course of B.Ed, which came through, and later on we also got connected with the Delhi government and started the diploma course in elementary education. It's a matter of great achievement for Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan that by now 500 teachers or the educators have been produced or have been elevated to the situation by the BLMC. It's a great achievement for Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. I would like to mention the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, set up in 1930 as just said a few minutes ago by Saini, has all more than 85 schools in Delhi, in India, and 10 schools abroad, and has number of cultural institutions in many countries abroad, US, UK, Australia, and many other countries, promoting our basic objective of Sanskrit and Sanskrit. Now, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, as is perhaps very well known to Professor Menonji, is a charitable institution, charitable trust, and a non-profitable organization. It has founded by K.M. Munshi. It has been a unique institution in this country for over 80 years in promoting the India's cultural heritage through education institutions and many other activities. And all of you, as you already know, that Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan has been awarded many prizes, but the most important is Mahatma Gandhi Prize of 2002 International Prize given to Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. There are only two institutions in this country, Ramakrishna Mission and Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, who have been given this great honor of Mahatma Ji's award. Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan is also exempt from income tax because it is a non-profit organization and it's an institute of national eminence. Bhavan's Delhi Kendra, set up in 1952, started the school, but now here 4 institutions. One is, of course, the BLMC, which we are today. Then we have Bulmin Management Institution. Then we have a school, Mehta Vidyalaya, which was started in 1960s. And a number of other courses are being done. Yoga, astrology, foreign languages, and many other aspects of India's cultural heritage. There is a Sanskrit Mahavidyalaya in Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, which is promoting Sanskrit right from the beginning, Saral Sanskrit to research and philosophy and various aspects of India's cultural heritage through the Sanskrit language. Then we have set up in Center of Indology in Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan 2009. Today, the Dean of Indology is doing a great job in promoting, taking forward the India's cultural heritage in various ways. Number of books have been published. Now, one of the major things which Professor Menon will be happy to know is coming out 8 volumes of English Sanskrit dictionary. And the 2 are likely to be printed and published within 2 months. We have received the ISBN number only 2 days back. And there will be 8 volumes which will come up. And all those who are associated with Sanskrit should know there is no very big and very monumental dictionary in Sanskrit in this country. And this will be a great contribution. Professor Menon will also be happy to see that last year we received 5 crores of rupees from the Ministry of Culture for setting up a chair for the Center of Indology. And this money is kept in FDR, and only the interest we are spending every year. And we are sending the expenditure statement to the government every year. So what it means is that whatever money is given to the government, to the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, is always used for the purpose it is meant for. It doesn't go to anybody's pocket, it doesn't go to anybody. It is not misused. That proves that Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan is a charitable institution, a dependable institution for various aspects. Having said that, I must say that I am also grateful to the Institute, Indraprastha GS IP University for giving us this affiliation of the B.Ed course. Now the BLMC is one of the best B.Ed colleges in Delhi. It is rated as number 2. It has done a great job in taking forward the quality of teaching for the teachers or the students of B.Ed as well as the diploma in elementary education. And it is not only, the BLMC is not only doing the courses as prescribed by the IP University or the STC, State Education Department, but various multiple aspects which should expand the intellectual capabilities of all the teachers. And their attitude should be that of a service to the students in the primary classes and school classes and nursery classes, and divert their thinking for promotion of India's cultural heritage and a sense of India's cultural heritage in education. And one thing more which I would like to add is that after the National Education Policy 2020 came in existence, it has been our effort to take forward the objectives of the National Education Policy 2020. It is just about a year that has happened, and the Prime Minister had 2 days back addressed a large number of educationists in this manner, bringing out the objectives of the National Education Policy and what it should be done. As a matter of fact, right now, there is a program going on already on the National Education Policy. It started 10:45. I joined that also. It will go about 2 p.m., where the various aspects of new education and national education policy are being discussed by various people. And our Dean of Pedagogy, Shashi Balaji, is also addressing that particular webinar. Therefore, all this I'm saying, most of the things are known to our Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan workers, teachers, others. But there are certain few things which I mentioned which are new today, and I thought they must be known to all those people who are attached with it. I must also mention that Mr. Anil Sharma, Director of Schools Education in Delhi, is also doing a wonderful work for the teachers of the various Bharatiya Vidya schools across the country. He continues to have training institutes, classes online in various aspects. And that is also a great achievement for the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Delhi, Kendra. Having said that, I do not wish to take more time. I'm sorry I took more time than it was perhaps necessary. But whatever came to my mind, I've said. I again welcome Professor Menon. It's a great thing for us to have him today in this Foundation Day of the BLMC. Now we look forward to his address on the Foundation Day. Thank you very much.
That was really motivating, sir. Thank you for your wise words. And now, with great pride and honor, we would like to familiarize you with the laurels of Bhavan's Leelavati Munshi College of Education. Bhavan's Leelavati Munshi College of Education is the newest step of Bhavan's Stairs of Vision. Established in the year 2016, the institution has 2 teacher training courses, B.Ed, which is recognized by NCTE and is affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, and DLED, which is affiliated to SCERT, Delhi. Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, genuinely serving the cause of education, established this college to ensure the transaction of quality education through rigorously trained quality teachers and educators who can bring about a transformative change in the lives and personalities of their students. This college is geared towards providing avenues for developing teachers and educators across levels: primary level, elementary level, secondary level, and senior secondary level.
And the BLMCE family has been working hard to achieve several other goals. To highlight the accomplished tasks and achievements of the previous session, I would like to invite Dr. Gitika Datta, Principal, BLMCE, once again to present the annual report of our college.
Respected Professor Shyam Menon, Shri Ashok Pradhan, Chairman BLMCE, and Director Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Delhi Kendra, Shri Rajesh Mishra, Registrar Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Shri Vijay Bharadwaj, Deputy Registrar Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Dr. E.K. Sharma, REO Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, dear faculty members and our most cherished students and former students, ex-students. I am indeed honored to be here to be welcoming you all and presenting the annual report of the academic year 2020-21 on this occasion of the 5th Foundation Day of Bhavan Lilavati Munshi College of Education. Life is a sinusoidal wave with ups and downs, and to live fullest of life, you need to learn and touch the sky as well as kiss the ground. The academic year 2020-21 gone by has been an year of deep downs because of the pandemic COVID-19. It has affected people regardless of nationality, level of education, income, or gender. It has touched and impacted deeply almost every sphere of life, the world over, education included. Never before in the history, educational institutions have been devoid of human touch for such long periods of time. The definition of educational processes, they have totally undergone a change, a sea change rather, and e-learning has come to be predominantly happening to be the only means of communicating with students, irrespective of the level or grades of students. You talk of any level, whether it's pre-primary, primary, secondary, senior secondary, or the higher education. In this sinusoidal wave, BLMC has been trying to provide the best kind of learning experiences to our students. Now, I would like to briefly present an overview of all the activities that the college has undertaken. I'll be presenting my screen now. I hope my screen is visible to all of you. Can I get? Okay. Okay. So we are today celebrating the 5th Foundation Day of our college, and as already has been discussed by our director and our students, this institution belongs to is under the it's under Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, which is a very reputed and a very old institution, which is more than 82 years old. So I'll be just briefly touching upon the various aspects. So as already has been mentioned by Sri Ashok Pradhan, it is a registered society and founded in 1938 by Dr. K.M. Munshi. It has 367 institutions, 7 centers abroad, 6,000 staff strength, and a student base of more than 3 lakhs. And our institution, our organization has been bestowed with many awards, some of the prominent among them being Rajiv Gandhi Award for National Integration, Communal Harmony Award, International Gandhi Peace Prize, and it has been recognized as the educational institution of national eminence. Now, something about our college. The college got its name after the name of wife of Dr. K.M. Munshi, Srimati Lilavati Munshi, who herself is a literature enthusiast and a noted writer in Gujarati. This college is geared towards providing avenues for developing teachers and educators across level, right from the primary to secondary to elementary and senior secondary level. And our basic motto is to empower the students with latest developments in the field of education, pedagogy, and while remaining rooted in our Indian cultural heritage and ethos, that is aiming for the stars while remaining rooted to our basics and fundamentals. I would like to highlight that the college does not, as is the norm with the university, we do not have, or we basically surrender the management quota seats to 100% admission is through the CET. At present, we have a faculty strength of 16 full-time assistant, 1 HOD and 1 principal. The college is in the expansion mode, and we are trying to add on more courses in line with the national education or the new education policy 2020, as has been already highlighted by our director. At present, we have 2 courses, but yes, we are in the process of adding more courses. The vision of this college is to be a premier institution of teacher education, striving for excellence in orienting future generation of educators and educational practitioners who can touch upon the lives and personalities of their students in a meaningful and sensitive manner, thereby acting as a catalyst in transforming our society. These are the values which we emphasize on in our day-to-day activities, in our overall conduct. And as they say, you cannot teach values, but values have to be, cannot be taught, but they have to be practiced. So that is what our endeavor is, to practice all these values and not just preach. One of the most prominent value that we emphasize is Vasudha Kutumbakam. That is, the word is one family, and basically which includes everybody. So we are following all kinds of inclusive practices. I'm happy to share that the college has been getting highest grades from the Joint Assessment Committee, which is constituted by the Directorate of Higher Education and University, and the college has been getting continuous A grades, which is the highest grade for any college. We have a span, or we have a huge array of activities which we conduct in the college, which touch upon almost all kinds of activities. So a brief presentation. So last year also we had our Foundation Day celebration. We had Professor Girishwar Mishra, who is the ex-vice chancellor of Mahatma Gandhi Antarashtriya Hindi Vishwavidyalaya Wardha, and is from the Department of Psychology, University of Delhi. So he enlightened us on human education and human consciousness. The college was a part of the evental activities organized by GGS IPU, and the college our faculty as well as students participated, and the college won great laurels in this activity. We also organized a 3-day webinar on Indian knowledge system vis-a-vis contemporary life and education, which was sponsored by ICPR on 1st to 3rd of March, wherein we had Professor Pankaj Arora, Professor Dhananjay Joshi, and Professor Bala Ganapati Devakonda from different universities, who enlightened us on various aspects of this particular theme. The college also organized a 2-day national conference on positive psychology and education in the month of June 17th and 18th, wherein our chief guest in the inaugural session was Professor Bharati Baveja, again from CIE University of Delhi. The keynote speaker was Professor Namita Ranganathan from University of Delhi, CIE University of Delhi. For valedictory address, we were very honored to have Professor Girishwar Mishra, who gave the valedictory address. The conference took shape through 5 parallel technical sessions held over 2 days, which were chaired by different educationists and people. Dr. Yukti Sharma from CIE, Dr. Mamta Singhal, again from IHE University of Delhi, Dr. Tanya Gupta from Army Institute of Education, Dr. Anjali Shogin from GGS IPU, and Dr. Indu Daya from our own college. These are the various screenshots of the sessions took place. So we had good amount of participation. There were 5 technical sessions which were held parallel. We had in hall 34 papers and posters presentations, and from all over the country, from around 15 states from all over the country, and also 1 international participation from University of Cambridge. The college organized a webinar on COVID-19 and sustainable educational practices in the month of June 2020. So again, we had Professor Bharati Dogra, Dr. Pranita Gopal, and our in-house faculty members enlightening students on various aspects of COVID-19 and how do we go about practicing educational practices. The college has a very active placement cell, and it conducts various activities which are for the benefit of the students. So we held a lecture on expectations from teachers in post-COVID times on 26th of March 2021, wherein we invited the principal of Delhi Police Public School to address the students. We also invited Mrs. Malini Narayanan, Principal, Army Public School, Shankar Vihar, and she addressed the students on COVID-19 scenario and beyond, role and expectations from future educators on 24th of March 2021. We also held an online session on how to prepare for CTET, because students were hugely concerned about how to prepare for the exam, and it is extremely important for them. So we invited Miss Hina Chaudhary for the purpose, who is faculty in Lady Irwin School. These are the placement details of our students of batch 2018-20. So we can see that out of a total 91 students, we have 37 students who are placed in various institutions, and they are all leading institutions in Delhi. There are many students who are pursuing their masters, and many students who are preparing for various other competitive examinations. During the activities, we held a workshop on drama and education by Professor Bharati Dogra. Then we have a huge, you can say, plethora of activities. We organized the e-farewell for our outgoing batch 2018-20 on 17th July. Then these are our display boards. Display boards have been or were you can say a regular feature, but because of pandemic, or we could have only 1 or 2 display boards thing. But yes, we compensated by digital poster making and designing college magazine era. I'm happy to share with you all that our college magazine by the name Era, we give opportunities to the students to design a cover page, and one of the winners is decided. And so for this last year's magazine, this was the cover page for our magazine, and this was the back cover page for our magazine. We celebrated Teachers' Day on 5th or 4th September, then competition on building stories for instructional processes. So our students online participated on how to build stories and how to use stories for instructional purposes. Then we had Shloka recitation competition. We had poetry recitation competition, the talent hunt competition, generally done in the beginning of the session, folk dance activity, then teaching a concept through a story or a poem. So students had to make their own stories or poems in order to transact the content. Poster making on health awareness, teaching learning material competition, Dandiya dance activity, Hasya Kavit Pratiyogita, webinar on Nai Talim by students. Once the students were oriented by the Ventel team, the students themselves, they conducted a webinar in accordance with the guidance of the Ventel action plan. Then we celebrate all the festivals, prominent festivals, whether it's national festivals or cultural festivals like Independence Day, Raksha Bandhan, Eid, Holi, Dussehra, Diwali, Christmas, etc. Then Gandhi Jayanti celebrations, the commemoration of martyrdom of Guru Tegh Bahadur and celebration of Guru Nanak birthday, Onam celebrations. Then every year our parent organization, that is Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, celebrates their foundation day on in the month of November, 7th November. So this year we had an online program of Sangeet Samaroh, wherein most prominent artists from the field of dance and music, they participate. Students, college also participated in some of the inter-college events, social region inter-college organized by KIT College, Gurgaon. Then the range of art and craft activities done by our students. So these are activities which are compulsory for all students. So our students really have come up with very beautiful different forms of arts. You can say mandala art, the Madhubani, and different forms of craft work. We also had our first alumni meet on 6th of November 2020, and students, our alumni, participated very enthusiastically. We also celebrate Yoga Day and International Yoga Day, and students are encouraged to follow yoga even during the lockdown when they are at home. So welcoming of the new year 2021. Now, I'll just give you a brief overview of the academic excellence at BLMCE. So for B.Ed batch 2018-20, this is the consolidated result. So as we can see, 10 students have scored above 80% marks on the overall B.Ed. 32 students were in the distinction thing. 75 to 80%. There were 48 students with the first division. We did not have any second division or third division, and one student got below 40% because the student left the college. Okay, then this is about the DLED batch 2019-21. So we are happy to note that the results of the DLED batch have been announced. So therefore, I am able to share, and I'm very happy to share that out of a total of 50 students who left the college and 48 students got above 80% of marks. Regarding faculty development activities, our faculty members, all of our faculty members, they attended a faculty workshop on integral education for teacher education, the integral philosophy of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, which was organized by the Sri Aurobindo Ashram, which was a good educative experience for us all. Our faculty members have also been involved in the conduction of in-service teacher education program of Bhavan schools all over India, as already has been discussed, told by our director. Bhavan has more than 80 schools all over India. So our teacher educators have taken sessions for the betterment of educational practices in Bhavan schools, and with very different and diverse areas. This is the academic contribution of our faculty members, B.Ed department, with respect to papers published, papers, presentations, FTP, seminar, conferences, participation, and orientation programs. So as we can see, our college is contributing quite a lot with respect to papers, certain chapters in terms of publication, paper presentations, the FTPs and seminars. So these are some of the very good figures, and orientation programs or courses conducted. Regarding DLED department, again, we can say that there has been notable contributions by faculty members, and all of the details of these academic contributions of faculty members are a part of our newsletter, which is there, e-newsletter, which is there on the college website. So these are the number of papers published, presentations, FTP, seminars attended, and orientation programs. The college cannot function if the support of the organization and various people who are key persons, it has not been there. So I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan family for facilitating the college in every possible manner. As they say, acknowledging the good that you already have in your life is the foundation for all abundance, happiness, and bliss. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the members of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan family, with whose continuous help and support the college has been doing very well. It is considered to be one of the prominent institutions, teacher education institution in Delhi, and one of the best institutions in GGS IPU. So first of all, I am very grateful to Professor Shyam Menon for gracing the occasion. Sir, it is really a proud privilege to have you here with us, and you have been a guiding force for me for many, many years. And I would also like to share this to the audience that I have been fortunate enough to be working under you for my PhD. So thank you so much, sir. I would like to thank the chairman of the college and director of Delhi Kendra Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Shri Ashok Pradhan. He has been a visionary, and he truly lends all kinds of support, administrative expertise, and guidance for making this college, or the college that and gives us direction in every kind. Shri A.S. Avasthi, the advisor of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, is the heart and soul of the college. It was basically his idea that the college should come up, and it is due to basically his efforts that the college has shaped up, and it is coming up very well. I would like to thank our registrar, Shri Rajesh Mishra, who is always willing to guide and facilitate us in whatever manner possible, and providing all kinds of administrative support and guidance. I am thankful to our Deputy Registrar, Shri Vijay Bharadwaj, who has been facilitator with all kinds of administrative and infrastructural support. I would like to express sincere thanks to Dr. Shashi Prabha Kumar, who is Dean, Department of Sanskrit Mahavidyalaya. She is always been so motivating and encouraging and cooperating and enriching us with her vast knowledge about the ancient Indian Vedas and different scriptures, as well as Indian philosophy. I am very thankful to Dr. Chavi Krishna Arya, Manager Mehta Vidyalaya, and Dr. Anju Tandon, Principal Mehta Vidyalaya, for helping us, supporting us, for being there for all kinds of support. The college owes a lot to you, and you have been very instrumental in facilitating our school experience programs for our students, first years as well as second years. I would also like to extend my thanks and gratitude to the director of Gulmin, that is Dr. Durga Mohan, for all the help extended to us from time to time. The college is extremely thankful to the accounts department headed by Mr. V.K. Sareen, FAO, who is taking care of all the accounts and auditing needs. and provides all kinds of information which is generally asked by IIT University or NCT from time to time. A big thanks to Mr. Adil Khan, who is the head of the works unit, for taking care of the small and big issues pertaining to the infrastructure, building, repairs, maintenance, etc., etc. I'm very thankful to Mr. Pushpender Sharma, the manager IT, and his team for being there, for providing all kinds of IT support which is required for making the college G Suite platform functional, and for taking up all kinds of issues which come up from time to time. I'm very thankful also to the team of our office and library staff. These are, our Mr. Sachdeva, Ms. Vimla, Ms. Promila, especially Ms. Promila, who is working a lot on our college newsletter in designing as well as getting things done. I would also like to express my heartfelt thanks to the faculty members of this institution. I am very happy to share that we have a very dedicated team of motivated and knowledgeable faculty members with the right kind of attitude, with the right kind of sensitivities and sensibilities. It is, we understand that in the field of higher education, institution is known by its faculty members. So we are very blessed to have very good faculty members who are there for the college, who many times they have kept their own personal issues and problems away and they have been giving their heart and soul to the institution and have been working against all odds. And yes, last but the most important, our dear students. All of these things, or all of these people, infrastructure, everything is coming together to basically serve our dear students. They are the life, or you are the life of this institution. It is your active, but yes, we miss your physical presence in the institution, but anyways. So now we are quite used to the online presence of our students on online platforms. So it's basically, you are the sole purpose of the existence of this college, and it is our endeavor to provide you the best kind of infrastructure and other support so that we are able to serve the society and our students in the best possible manner. In the end, yes, I like bow my head to God for being so kind in making this college coming up and realizing all the dreams that our founders had for this institution. With these words, I would like to thank you all for listening and giving listening to me without any interruption and with so much of support. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for presenting such a comprehensive report. Holding on to the true essence of words by Ray Walpole, teachers in compassionate schools constantly seek solutions to remove barriers that children face. These teachers know that learners cannot meet academic goals until their more basic human needs are met physically and emotionally. They operate under the principle that you cannot teach the mind until you reach the heart. However, this does not mean that students do not meet academic standards. All students in a compassionate classroom are supported to achieve high goals. Our job as educators is to foster learning, to ensure that we leave no child behind. The answers can be found in a compassionate approach to learning and teaching. This requires huge quantums of maturity on the part of an educator, especially in these times of duress and distress. To enlighten us more on these interrelated and pertinent themes of stability, compassion, and wisdom in an age of flux, I now invite Professor Shyam Menon, former Vice Chancellor, Ambedkar University, Delhi, to share his vast knowledge, experience, and wisdom with us all.
Thank you very much. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
I'm most grateful to Dr. Geetika Datta for asking me to be here. Before getting into that, let me first of all address the dignitaries, Sri Ashok Pradhanji, Dr. Geetika Datta, esteemed colleagues, and my dear esteemed fellow teacher educators, and my dear students. It's a great privilege to be asked to participate in your day of celebration of the 5th foundation day of your esteemed institution. I'm thankful to this online mode, which we all have now gotten used to. Otherwise, sitting in Bangalore, I would not have been able to come over to Delhi and participate in this. So, and I'm particularly thankful to Dr. Geetika Datta. So I have, as she alluded, have a special kind of a role to play in her life. I was a close friend of her father's, and have had the privilege of supervising her PhD work. And through thick and thin, through ups and downs, through happiness and sadness, I think we have progressed together, and I'm with great pride, I can see how she has guided and skippered this institution in this last 1 year, which has been most difficult for all of us, and particularly for Geetika. God bless her. See, August 5th, August is a month of great significance because it has figured as an important milestone in the international movement. And it's particularly important today because the founder, Kulapati K. Munshi, had been a guiding force in the international movement. But often we put Lilavati ji as a footnote to his life, which is not fair. This college has been named after Srimati Lilavati Munshi. She, in her own right, as Geetika said, has been a writer and a social activist, and a very close follower of Gandhiji in Salt Satyagraha and civil disobedience movement, and has been subsequently also part of the shaping of this project of nation building in India, being part of the Rajya Sabha, and where she has been, she participated in the building of this a nation. In her own personal life itself, she has actually shown great courage, and she led an exemplary, emancipated life. If you read a biography, you will get to know more about that. She had that. She, in an unusual time, very early in the 20th century, she had the, as a widow, she she pursued, got into marriage once again, which is very unusual, but also exceptional for a woman of those times to have led from the front. And Gujarat had this remarkable women. I must say, Hansa Mehta was another I can mention. There is in the Sarabhai family, there were very exceptional women too, and they were all in a way instrumental in creating a new set of norms for women in the modern Indian context. So I think about you should be really, really proud of the fact that you've been named after Lilavati ji. I can understand what kind of significance being part of the ecosystem of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan actually provides to an institution like yours. it brings in a whole history of idealism and a belief in the core of whatever is good, the distilled form of the goodness of Indian culture and civilizational character. The idea of tolerance, idea of living together, idea of brotherhood, idea of fraternity, and also taking inspiration from the best of our textual, our cultural, and even religious tradition, and and recognizing that India has been a home for people with various different kinds of faiths, but all of them had been united in their allegiance to this project of nation building, and that's precisely what Kulpati Munshiji represented, and that's what the organization Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan has grown to be. So it's having said that, we must also remember in the post-liberalization particularly, I think we are in a state of enormous flux, and that's where this flux in my title comes from. The flux essentially is partly also because of this surge in globalization that happened in the 90s and the first decade of the 20th century. Now it is taking a slight reverse trend. There was a buoyancy in the Indian middle class, and that buoyancy in a way started much earlier in the 1980s and late 70s itself. If I may use a metaphor, I would call it the aspiration of the Indian middle class to transit from the Bajaj scooters to Maruti 800 cars. If you recall, that was emblematic of the aspiration of the new middle class. With that also, similarly, there was a transmigration from the state board schools to Central Board of Secondary Education, CBSE schools. And Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan schools all over India came out of, in that sense, that buoyancy that was created in the aspirations of the Indian middle class. That's a topic of different essay. I can someday talk to you about it, about the Kothari Commission and how it essentially recommended a certain set of things and how the subsequent developments selected one aspect and not the other. For instance, Kothari Commission had recommended in the 1964-66 and subsequently the 1968 first national policy of education also had endorsed that. The common school system and the national system of education, these were the two major things that they promised. But subsequent developments proved to us that the common school system was somehow jettisoned, partly also because in India was not really prepared for that kind of a egalitarianism, which at the level of rhetoric, there was plenty of that in the politics of 1970s, but in actuality, there was a reluctance to be on the same, share food from the same plate, so to say, across the classes. So, and on the other hand, the national system of education is something which actually succeeded very well, but not just because the policy initiatives that came from the governmental side, but also it was in consonance with, it was in resonance with the aspirations of the Indian middle class. The Indian middle class was just about coming of age, and that's what I said. This Maruti 800 middle class was as a new phenomenon which actually came of age in the early 80s. So that it is the fructification of their aspiration that essentially came in a crisis of balance of payment crisis and IMF influence on Indian politics, and we are having to ship our gold reserves from here to Bank of England, and all that is well known. I don't want to get into that, but that crisis actually enabled a major shift of gears in the Indian economy, in all the policy environment that support the Indian economy. In that, the The middle class rode that wave. The emerging middle class rode that wave. In fact, subsequently, if you see the subsequent household economic growth that across classes, you'll find that it's the middle class and upper middle class which has actually gained a great deal post liberalization. But that can't be particularly perhaps said about the other segments, because they probably must have what they call the Gini coefficient between the in the rich and the poor has only increased subsequent to that. I'm not making an economic critique of this particular thing. I'm only, as a historian of curriculum, I'm just talking about its consequence to education. The consequence to education can actually be symbolized in a small statistics. I will not bore you with many numbers, but one number you must remember, all of you, as young teacher educators, is this, young aspirant teacher educators, is this, that only something like 7% of India's workforce work in organized sectors. About 93% of India's workforce are actually in the unorganized sectors, informal sectors. You'll find that is, in some sense, last year we found this exodus of migrant labor from Delhi to the or other metropolises to the rural areas, and the consequent and the kind of hardships they had to suffer and so on. All these are essentially because the 93% of the Indian workforce are in the periphery of the Indian economy. They do not have a direct participation in the core of the Indian economy, which is in a buoyant form. The closer you are to the very core, the more your growth. So the rich people will tend to become richer, and the aspirant middle class is trying to associate with that process, and so that they can also have access to some prosperity in this process, which is understandable. Nothing very difficult to comprehend. But what we must remember, that there are late Mr. J.P. Nayak used to say that the gate, there are three gatekeepers to the gate of privilege in India, and they are one, private property, second, higher education, and the third is actually employment in organized sector, formal employment, proper employment. Because there is an enormous distance between those who have a regular salary and those who do not. In fact, the real social distance, or in terms of social distance, not in the COVID terms, but there's real social distance in terms of economic terms, is not between the lowest paid class 4 employee in a government sector to the highest paid employee of the government. In fact, that social distance is much less in comparison to the social distance that exists between those who have an employment where there is regular salary and a pension possibility, and there's some loan for housing and medical assistance and so on, and those who do not have that, contractual employees, and those who do not have all that. So that is the major social distance that exists in the society today. And much of what is happening, you will find that secure employment, dignified wages, all these are associated with higher education. So higher education is a bridge that connects between the periphery of the economy in the society and the core of the economy in society. So those who want to participate in the core processes of the economy and want to gain out of it have to really use higher education as the ferry to reach them. So hence you will find that there is a major flurry, major anxiety on the part of the upwardly mobile middle class to put the children through what is known as the entrance examination thing. So everything revolves around entrance examination. In fact, I remember a friend of mine who was a pediatrician working in the social public health sector, trying to uphold the idea of the colostrum, having to feed young infants colostrum. That means the mother's milk in the first couple of days after delivery. which is very important according to the new medical sciences. So they were trying to create the practice, whereas that was a taboo in traditional societies, that you are not supposed to feed that milk to the children. So he was trying to do an advocacy for that, and it was not really cutting ice. Then he said, ultimately he said, there are research which says that if you feed your infants with cholesterol in the first couple of days after their birth, there is a 25% greater possibility of their passing the IIT entrance examination. Which is a far-fetched thing, but my point is that actually turned the early, because they understood that cognitive development and intellectual development is a path-dependent thing. The early nutrition is very important, and that builds on the further thing. If you miss on the early nutrition, the possibility of your catching up is much less. That's why malnourishment at the infancy is a very, very bad thing for future. So this is something which catches the middle class, because everybody is anxious, because they feel that their life is made if the children are pushed through this entrance examination business, and that is a life and death thing. They can get into recognized avenues of higher education and secure employment, and probably if they are lucky, migration to the promised land, which is America. With the globalization, all that was possible. But now the counter-globalization and the economy is taking a reverse trend, and also natural calamity of planetary dimension, like what we are going through, is actually in a way God-sent messages for us to jolt us to understand that things which we have been taking for granted from late 1990s to say 2010, we can't take for granted those kind of things anymore. McKinsey did a study in 2007 which actually said that Indian middle class is growing in such a fashion that I think India's demography will change drastically. India will be one of those economies which will be riding the wave in 2020s. But I think that's not quite so now. Because of various reasons, I think we have had major setbacks. But it's not time for despair, but it's time for introspection. And in this process, we should realize that the schools and teachers' role is not just to coach kids to pass entrance examinations. Now, schools have become secondary to the coaching industry. In places like Kota or in places like other institutions, that schools are attached to coaching industry. Coaching industry is the primary thing and schools are attached to it. Now, teachers' role therefore becomes a very passive and supportive role, just to allow children to access the services of coaching industry. In this whole process, you must remember that I think, of course, the creme de la creme gets selected and go to the higher education. You know the statistics about IITs? IITs have an aspirants of a list of about, the last count was about 500,000 students appear in these tests every year. And how many do they select? Less than 5,000. So you have a 99% chance of not succeeding in these kinds of things. So we must be really worried about those people who do not succeed in this particular thing. So as Abraham Lincoln is said to have told his son's teacher, see, teach him to succeed, definitely, but also teach him how to deal with failure. That's where I think all the rest of it is coming. We are in a state of flux in terms of the aspirations are going to be exploding on one side, and an accompanying sense of despair is equally is coming in to a large number of people who can't really make it that way. So there is a need for supporting that. We can't have, you would be surprised to know that in universities, how many young people are seeking psychiatric help, psychotherapeutic help. I used to be associated for 10 years in a university from 2008 to 2018, where there was a very major thrust on psychotherapy. We had a major specialization course in psychotherapy, and we had a clinic of our own. And it's very interesting to see what kind of children what kind of people are really accessing these. So I'm not really, this can go on, but I know the time is limited. So all I wanted to say is the following, that in this, teacher's role has to be redeemed from that of just helping children crack the entrance examinations kind of thing. That's particularly the case with the middle class oriented schools. I'm not talking about the MCD schools or Government of Delhi schools and so on. And Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan and many of these kinds of teacher education institutions, I don't know where your alumni are, but my own guess is that most of them must be in private schools. So if that is indeed the case, I think we need to understand that this peripheral role that the teachers are playing at the moment of just helping children crack these entrance examinations to something which is going to be central to them is very important. COVID crisis again demonstrated to us that the children's inability to cope in isolation has creating a sense of insularity and a sense of social isolation. You must remember, children learn, there is a large amount of social learning that children go through. It is children learn from peer group a lot. So there is a whole lot of hand-holding functions that need to accompany the teaching. In the middle class, particularly the scholastic aspects of education is also partnered in some sense by parents. The parents in their anxiety, I know for a fact that the teachers with young children do actually ask, oh, please relieve me from classes in the morning because it coincides with my daughters or sons' online classes, because they want to be sitting next to the online, invisible to the camera, but helping the child, literally hand-holding the child through this process. But what is then the teacher's role? Teacher's role can't be just showing worksheets and getting children to do their scholastic tasks alone. There is something more than that. That I think we need to really be aware of. I talked about stability also because of even in curricular terms, it's unstable. In 2000, we had a curriculum reform. In 2005, we had another curriculum reform. And now we are in for a third kind of curriculum reforms. In textbooks, characters appear, characters disappear, emphasis of history changes from time to time. It's like curricula has become so contentious and it has become so political that with every time there is a political changes, the complexion of the curriculum also changes. It's a bit like what I would call the chapati politics. After every 5 years, you change the direction of it's not like tandoori where you stick the roti on the wall of the tandoor. On the contrary, this is actually had to be turned every now and then. So that's all very well. That's what democracy is all about. But in that process, what happens to the instability that comes to that? In 2005 curriculum reforms, for instance, I had visited several schools after that and asked the teachers, what are you doing? So the entire open-endedness that was envisaged under the what they call the social constructivist approach and so on, seldom got translated in the actual classroom. And I really don't think a new kind of curricular dimension will again get translated into the classroom enough. Except for substantively, we can say, oh, this chapter is dropped, another chapter is added, and so on. But that is not education. As they say, there is an old maxim which says mathematics is what you retain in you after you have forgotten all the mathematics that you have done at school. That means you may forget all the substantive, all the information-oriented aspects of the curriculum. But there are certain things which remain with you. That is more important. As there is if you do a learning curve, you will find that shortly after the examination, the learning comes down. But it reaches an asymptotic, a plateau after some time. And that plateau is the residual learning. The bulk of what the children learn for the sake of exams are not retained. I read physics earlier. I've retained very little physics in me. But I have certain basic structures in my intellect which is still determined by physics. I may not remember specific equations or specific concepts or whatever, but I have those structures within me, and that structures are used. The idea that we have to make an argument on the basis of contentions which are tested with evidences, and the evidences have to be assembled in a certain manner. It has to be, you would infer, you would predict, you would see relationship between, you would sequence, you would classify. All these are processes, intellectual processes that come with it. That's not what the substance of science which is being taught in exams. What is happening today is that instead of the exams testing what is being taught or learned, we land up learning what is examined. We don't learn what is tested. We don't test what is learned. Instead, we learn what is tested. So that's what I would call the oppressive influence of examinations. In this entire thing, I tend to think that the teacher's role is that of not just hand-holding children, being another hand-holder. Already the parents are hand-holding, and teachers also become hand-holders in just cracking the examination. Our entire validation process depends on how many people did the IIT exam, what was the ranking, etc., etc. That is the whole criteria based on which we measure the success of schooling. If I am on the board of several schools, and many times they come up with annual reports which are more of this kind. How many of our students made it to IIT? How many of them got this much of percentages mark? And above 98 and above in the class 12, what is the proportion of our children, our students have it? I really don't think that's very important at all. In fact, Dr. Anil Wilson, the late former principal of St. Stephen's College, used to tell me that, look, I'm not interested in the 95% plus kids. They are uninteresting people. They are very one-dimensional, and they are quite uninteresting, boring people. I'm interested in actually children with 80% plus. So he used to have a selection process in which there was a cutoff which was 80-85%, and he used to then call them and have interviews, and then select people out of it on the basis of their extracurricular activities, their general personality trait, and so on. So that's why Stephens used to get good students. So this entire one-dimensionality, which is, I think, unfortunately, our whole system of schooling and examination has regressed to, we should not be, as teachers, we should not be party to that. I think we have to be not just assembly line workers, just aiding an industrial process which is happening. On the contrary, we should be the conscience keepers who have to keep advising policymakers as to what exactly it should be, and as a collective. That's why I said in this thing, teachers community. It's not teachers individually. Every time there is a curriculum reform in a country like England or Scotland, particularly, teachers are the ones who majorly. India has had several curriculum and educational policy initiatives. How many teachers are consulted? How much of teachers' voice is heard actually? So this is an anomaly which I think we need to really correct. And for that, I think we need to understand what Max Weber said as the basic characteristic of what a profession is. A profession is characterized, he said, by two things. One is the science, the corpus of the edifice of knowledge that underlies the practice of a profession. And the second is the guild, the community of professionals, community of practitioners who constitute the profession. So I'm counting on both. The science part, namely the edifice of knowledge that is underlying teaching as a profession, is not how to teach physics and how to teach mathematics and how to teach English. It's not just that. It is actually as to how to mold and facilitate the development of a whole person. And that is what Indian civilization is all about. Vivekananda, for instance, said that education is the bringing out of the perfect, bringing out of the perfection already inherent in man. So that perfection is already there. But in this process of the test-oriented, examination-oriented education, we are thwarting all that. Imagine the life of a middle-class child from class 9 to class 12. It's hell. I'm sorry to say that. It's a he or she runs shuttles between tuition classes and home and all kinds of things. They are one time in the best years of their life, which could have been used for many other things. Improving the artistic sensibilities, literary sensibilities, physical abilities, sports, athletics, all these kinds of things have got. Creativity. Instead, we are, I think, actually diverting them in a one-dimensional manner to that one single gatekeeper for success in life. I think here that teachers as a group have a great deal to contribute in terms of new thinking, in terms of new ideas. And we should never be in the receiving end. We should actually be on the speaking end. We should be vociferous. We should use our platforms available to us, our journals, our professional seminars, all these things to generate new ideas and make it known to policymakers. That's very important. That's something which we need to do. I'll stop here. These are all thoughts which I'm leaving you with. I know that it's not, I really don't want to say that things are going to be hunky-dory. It is not. Things are going to be, it's never going to be hunky-dory. It's going to be difficult. But then we as community of professionals should know where we stand and where the larger direction of this country should be. And we need to really make our voices heard, to those who matter. Finally, I would like to sort of remember one person because of whom I had several times visited Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan organizations, not just the Leelavati Memorials College, but also the school and many other places. And that is Mr. J. Veerraghavan. And I miss him very much, and we lost him this time to COVID. And it's such a, I would certainly like to pay homage to Mr. Veerraghavan. He has been a doyen, not just on in the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan thing, even earlier during his days as a senior civil servant. He was, I think, if I remember correctly, the first full secretary of the Ministry of Human Resource Development when Human Resource Development was amalgamated, and the several other constituent units were amalgamated, and he was the was the secretary to the government of India in the 80s. But what really marked him was his ability to see the larger picture always, and that is something. My conversations with him on telephone as well as in person have been always very, very enriching to me. I pay my homage to him. Thank you very much. Once again, I thank my dear young colleague and friend, Dr. Geetika Datta, for having asked me to come here. It allowed me to collect my thoughts, and I hope that some of those thoughts which I'm leaving you with would actually make young teacher educators think and introspect a little bit. So if that you do, I'll be very happy. I'll consider that my talk was a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Your words were endearing. I'm sure we all will incorporate the thoughts and lessons that you bestowed upon us. Since COVID-19 has impacted the stability in all our lives at a greater level, the compassion towards our learners and wisdom has really kept us moving well with this change. We will definitely try our best to become capable of catering to dynamic situations in life. We are truly privileged to have you as our guest today. Now, the house is open for interaction. If anybody has any questions, you are most welcome to put them across. Kindly raise your hand and switch on your mic and camera, and you may then ask the question.
If I may ask, sir, will you, sir, are you open to questions? Because I know that you have to be...
it's like this. I can never say no to young people who want to have a conversation.
Questions.
I only would like to say this, that questions, but I may not have all the answers. If I had all the answers, then Indian education system would not have been here at this moment. So obviously, I think that much of the answers are going to be from their generation.
Okay, so we can just quickly have one or two or three questions because sir is quite busy with many other assignments. Okay.
Ma'am, may I?
Yes, please, Anjali.
Yes, ma'am. Sir, thank you so much for your enriching words. They were amazing, actually. And my question to you is that you said that how to deal with failure. So, teachers nowadays are aware about the importance of teaching beyond books, and they are taking steps to teach children how to deal with failure. That is itself a challenge. But one more challenge is arising, sir. Teaching is getting more and more complex and challenging these days. The patience level of students is decreasing, while rudeness, argumentation, disobedience, and short temper is on the rise. So, sir, how do we tackle these challenges and keep the students focused and inculcate good behavior in them?
Usually, argumentation is something which is part of a democratic society. So a classroom is definitely part. The lab where democratic society is nourished. As the Kothari Commission said, the destiny of India is being shaped in the classroom. So if you had a classroom which thoughts, you will realize that even out of fear, people would actually keep quiet. But that doesn't take us anywhere. On the contrary, it's a good idea to demonstrate to people how we can disagree without having to be disagreeable. We can be civil to each other at the same time decide to disagree. Just disagreeing doesn't mean that we are enemies. We need to really understand in a democratic society there may be many kinds of views, and these views have to coexist. Out of fear, people can be suppressed. They will just keep quiet. It doesn't mean that the dissent doesn't evaporate just because I would tend to think a classroom should be a lab in which we should actually train people how to contain and how to carry out a civilized argument in a contained way without having to do some fisticuffs. That is what civilization is all about. In fact, debating societies in good colleges have been encouraged because of this. I think about debates, disagreements, and once we come to a consensus, then the discipline to follow that consensus. That is what we all about. Now, how to deal with failure is a different issue. See, when we have a one-dimensional view of success in life, and success in life is, particularly, if success in life is translated to building the highest skyscraper among the scholars in Bombay, if that is the success in life, then I think we have a problem. Because everybody can reach it. And there's an enormous lot of frustration that is going to generate out of this particular thing. And that frustration gets translated into all kinds of things. It will be more natural, even statistically, it will be more possible that many people would fail when few succeed. But we must make this into a multi-dimensional goal. Okay, you may not succeed in this, but you may succeed in something else. So I would always try to say that a good school is something which does not try to reward the best student. On the contrary, it should be something which actually should reward the best in each student. Every student has something best in them. To bring it out is more important. The whole criteria of best is only one dimension. Only one person gets first rank. Only one person can get a first rank by definition. But then there are other things in which you can do well. So life is one dimension. You can be a very successful, rich, successful businessman, but you could be a horrible husband, a terrible father, an enormously unsocial neighbor, unpopular colleague, a terrible boss. All these you can do. What is the point in doing all these things when accumulating negativity all around? What is the success? Even if you earn a little more than somebody else, how does that matter? If you are overall, you have gathered more negativity. So as teachers, we are supposed to show this mirror onto the face of many students who are otherwise who are on this roller coaster ride. They are socialized to believe that that's the only way to succeed. But we should show many other ways of succeed.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for answering the question elaborately and patiently.
Moving ahead, to add on to the glory of this auspicious day, we are happy to announce the release of this year's college newsletter, Vithika. The word Vithika means pathway, and standing up to the name, our newsletter aims to bring in the light the new developments and college activities of both our students and faculty members. I would like to request the chief guest to kindly click on the link to release the e-newsletter and share the screen with us.
So that's where the new is written, is it?
Yes.
That is issue 1, volume 6, issue 1, January,
Yes,
June 2021.
Yes, sir, please.
I've clicked.
So can you please share your screen also?
Oh my God, that is you are asking me to do things which are beyond my capacity. Why don't you share the screen and just let's pretend that I shared it. If you don't mind, Geetika, will you share your screen and?
Ma'am, we are unable to hear you. Please unmute your.
You have to click 3 dots.
Yeah, I will do that, but
And then there is an option of share the screen.
share the screen. Yes, full screen whiteboard, change layout. Geetika is sharing. Okay, great. Shall I try again?
Yes, sir, please.
But you'll have to unshare.
Yeah, sir, I'll do that. My system is behaving a little slow today. I don't know why.
I can see a whiteboard, change layout, full screen, change background, captions, use a phone audio, report a problem, report abuse, troubleshooting and help and settings. But I don't see it share. Yes, there's an arrow. Is that one?
Sir, 3 dots, more options.
No. 3 dots, more option is what I read just now. That is
Sir,
change.
the arrow, left side to the 3 dots. So you see an arrow, then and present now.
Present now.
Yes.
Your entire screen or a window.
Sir, entire screen.
Okay. Now I should share.
Yes, I said you just select that and share.
I'm sorry. Oh. I'm sorry.
It's fine, Madam Geetika Datta. You please share and present.
Okay, sir is sharing.
You're presenting your screen. Okay, I'm presenting my screen, but what is coming there?
Sir, you need to please now share where the newsletter is there. I think you must have clicked and you need to see where the newsletter is. Yes.
Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I managed it. Okay, I managed it. Thank you. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you so
very,
much, sir.
it's very well laid out and well designed. Congratulations. I think you have so much of talent in your college.
Thank you so much, sir.
Is that all right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Shall I stop presenting?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now I would also like to request Shri Ashok Pradhan, Director, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Delhi Kendra, Shri Rajesh Mishra, Registrar, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Delhi Kendra, Shri Vijay Bhardwaj, Deputy Registrar, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Delhi Kendra, and Dr. Gitika Datta, Principal, BLMCE, to inaugurate the hard copies of the newsletter.
Wow.
Sir, because you were not in Delhi, therefore we couldn't send you the hard copy.
That's fine. That's fine. You can send me later.
Yes, sir. Definitely. Definitely, sir. So we take out a very few copies, just 5 to 6 copies of this. Otherwise, it's a e-newsletter which is there on the website.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much to all the dignitaries for inaugurating our newsletter. Now it's time to acknowledge our students' hard work as the college is going to announce the achievers.
I would like to request Ms. Sakshi Varmani Rishi, HOD, DLED, to announce the achievers.
Sakshi, please unmute yourself.
Okay, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am. Yesterday was a dream, tomorrow is a vision, but a day well lived makes every day a dream of happiness and every tomorrow a vision of hope. So let's not waste much time. A very warm good afternoon to all of you present here. I'm very thankful to ma'am for announcing the achievers of DLMC from both the departments, B.Ed and D.Ed. Ma'am, I'm presenting my screen. So achievers of DLMC from B.Ed and D.Ed department. Position holders in B.Ed batch 2018-2020, semester 4. Third position goes to Ms. Anshu Thomas with 79.14 percentage. Second position goes to Radhika Ray, 79.43%. And the first position goes to Ms. Kavita Chopra, 79.91%. Big round of applause for all the achievers. Overall position holders in B.Ed batch 2018-2020. Third position is for Mr. Gaurav Sharma with 81.58%. Second position, Ms. Tanya Arora with 82.2%. First position, Ms. Kavita Chopra with 83.08%. I request you all to please give a big round of applause to all the achievers of 2018-20. Thank you so much. So next. Position holder in B.Ed batch 2019-21, semester 2. At third position, Ms. Madhupreet Kaur with 86.29%. At second position, Upasna Thakur with 86.43%. And first position scored by Ms. Vishali Maggu with 86.71%. A big round of applause to all these achievers of Thank you. Semester 4th result 2019-2021. Third position scored by Ms. Shabasti Mehti with 82.71%. Second position, Ms. Ankita Sharma with 84.57%. And first position, Ms. Upasna Thakur with 85.43%. Congratulations to all the achievers of semester 4. A big round of applause for all of them. From DLED department, actually the second year result has not come out. So first year result batch 2019-2020. At third position, shared by two students, Ms. Urup Afreen with 90.70% and Ms. Srishti Parmar with 90.70%. Second position scored by Ms. Sakshi Chauhan, 91.04%, and first position scored by Ms. Kajal Kumari with 92%. Congratulations to the students. Thank you so much. Now the special awards, B.Ed All-Round Achievement. So the all-round achievers of B.Ed are two students, Jasleen Kaur and Vinay. A big round of applause for both of them. Thank you. Special award for highest attendance in B.Ed department, Madhupreet Kaur with 97.15%. Congratulations, Madhu. Special award in DLED department, all-rounder award goes to Srishti Parmar. Congratulations and big round of applause for Srishti. Highest attendance in the session 2019-21 in DLED department, shared by two students, Yogesh Kumar and Sonia, with highest percentage, 98%. Congratulations and keep for your bright future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's give a huge round of applause to our achievers. Congratulations to all. The entire BLMC family is proud of you.
It has been truly said by Thomas Groom, one mark of a great educator is the ability to lead students out to new places where even the educator has never been. Now, I'd like to invite Dr. Gitika Datta, Principal, BLMCE, to announce the best educator.
We have in this practice in our college, we have this annual practice of declaring the best educator award, taking a 360-degree feedback from the students, from faculty members, from the contribution of faculty members in the field of education and pedagogy, and from the management's perspective. So I'll be presenting my screen for declaring. So I hope this works. Okay. Okay, so based on all of these 4 criteria, I am very happy to share that the best educator in the B.Ed department. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So best educator in the B.Ed department for this year goes to Ms. Bhageshwari Sharma. And the best educator in the DLED department for the year goes to Miss Nancy Bedi. Heartiest congratulations, Nancy. So thank you and congratulations and keep it up. Keep up the good efforts. Thanks. Okay, please mute yourself. Your things are being heard by everybody. Okay. Thank you so much. We can carry on with the proceedings.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Let's have a huge round of applause for our beloved guest educator.
Now I would like to invite Sri Rajesh Mishra, our dedicated registrar, Bhartiya Vidya Bhavan, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thanks, respected Professor Menon. I have got a pleasure to show our gratitude towards the blessing you have bestowed upon us, especially the students of B.Ed College, Bharti Vidya Bhavan. And really, I have heard you in detail, and I really appreciate that the way you have interacted with the students and just caution them that the education or teaching is not way of livelihood, but it's way of living. That reminds me another movie on education, that is Tare Zameen Pe, and you have exactly pointed out that the time has come to prepare our educators and the students in a different manner altogether. Thank you, sir. Thank you for blessing our students and kind participation. I also want to show my gratitude and thanks to our beloved director, Shri Ashok Pradhanji, who is tirelessly looking after the affairs of entire Bharti Vidyavan Delhi Kendra, and he has been special liking for B.Ed College, which has brought laurels from all quarters, and as rightly pointed out, that this is the second best education institution in and college in Delhi. So I'm grateful for his guidance. I am also showing my gratitude towards Dr. Geetika Datta, our young dynamic principal, who is tirelessly working for the good of the teaching community as well as the students. And she is shaping the future educators very well. And there is another aspect that in 5 years, she has made the institution a proud institution in Delhi and across Delhi NCR. Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. The program was very good under your guidance. I am also grateful to Shri Vijay Bharadwaj, our Deputy Registrar, who has supported the B.Ed College and the students in every field of life. And without his contribution, the B.Ed College has not been the same shape as we are witnessing today. We are also grateful to the participants from other quarters and the institution, especially if Dr. Shashi Prabha is there, and Shri Adil Khan, Shri Pushpendra Sharma, Manager IT, and Dr. Chavi Krishna Arya, our principal and manager of the school, principal of Sanskrit College and manager of the school. We are also grateful for the participation of all faculty members, participation of all students, and we are also show our gratitude towards those students who have brought glory to our institution by securing very good position in their respective classes. Thank you for one and all, and I just want to convey our gratitude and regards to every participant today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. Now I request everyone to please switch on your cameras to have a group snapshot. Thank you all for joining. Stay happy, stay safe. Now I would request everybody to please log off.